dun, da 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 dun, da dun, da 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 dun, da 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 dun, da 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 dun. That they're creepy and they're spooky. They're mysterious and fruity. They're all together rookie. The Addams Family. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Why does it say that every time? Every time I try to... Did I still have the... Oh, you know what? I probably need to copy it over. Every single time it streams on Twitch and it pops up the notification, it pops up like our old stream title from a year ago. Like in the notification. But I know I change it. So I don't really get that. That's a part of me that I'm thinking, buddy, you're screwing around there. Let me get this. Let me get this. And then I can do this. Add this to here. Do this. Oh, hold on. And boom. There we go. We put that on our start. And then we ride. We also have a sip of water. And then we ride. Hold on. I have to make sure. Wait, what? What? This is wrong. Why does this look weird? Alright, whatever. It doesn't matter. It matters not. Ladies and gentlemen. Ah! Ah! What a week 9. What a week 9. What a week 9 for me. I needed this. I needed this week 9. I've already killed this water. This is not good. I gotta go for an hour. What a week 9 in the National Football League. Holy guacamole. I just realized something else up here too. Hold on. Let me fix this. No, that's right. Anyway. What a week 9 in the National Football League. It is free refill episode 17 here to review, discuss what happened throughout the week. We got the biggest birds in the NFL, and we have some of the biggest, stinkiest, ugliest ducklings that we got to talk about as well. We got to talk. For one, it was if you had a great Halloween weekend, congrats. You know, if you guys, let me know what you guys went as for Halloween, I guess. I didn't really dress this year. It was one of the first times I did not really have a costume. A, because I was sick all week, and B, I mean, that was it. I was just sick all week. A lot of stuff was going on in my life this week, so unfortunately, this is the real first Halloween that I was unable to fully celebrate. That being said, I was saved by an amazing week 9 of NFL football. And it is going to be capped off tonight between two potentially high... I know Dallas' offense is high profile. Arizona's can be hit and miss, but they've been surprisingly arguably more watchable with Jacoby Brissett at the helm, who will be starting tonight, should be starting tonight against the Dallas Cowboys. We will see if the Cardinals can finally get off the schneid and get a win, or just keep losing. And we'll see if Dallas can make maybe a little bit of ground in the playoff race while Philadelphia is on bye, or lose ground. We'll see what happens. With me in the box of shame is the entire Cincinnati Bengals defense. If you watched NFL football in Week 9, you would know why. Because they were legitimately cursed out by their own teammates, and were apparently some other headlines, some rumors, not really new rumors, just reports of the the Bengals defense genuinely just laughing off questions about their ability to play defense, which is insane to me, which tells me one of two things. Either you are genuinely that bad of a like you genuinely don't care that you're that bad of a defense, or you don't trust the coaching staff, or what. But Cincinnati cannot be taken seriously the last 2 weeks, not losing to the Jets and Bears at home in games where their offense played phenomenal and certainly well enough to win. I mean, on any other team, on with any other defense, you're probably winning both of those games. Because Cincinnati Bengals defense is what it is a absolute travesty. Like, you would think Joe Flacco has genuinely played well enough to keep the team afloat, and yet still, like, Joe Flacco's trying to keep this ship of the Cincinnati Bengals afloat, and he's got teammates in the lower deck just ripping planks out of the bottom, letting water seep in. There's only so much you can do if you're Flacco and Jamar and T and the rest of that Bengals offense. But the Bengals defense has completely been letting down that offense. And there's a good chance they end up being the ugliest duckling. We'll see what ends up happening. But there's a good chance they're at the bottom of the rankings for this week's tier list. We've got at the top are going to be our biggest birds. And that is plural. I actually have multiple teams that I think made absolute statement wins. Then we got our pretty big birds, teams that played well, got the win, but just weren't up there with the best. Decent-sized birds, you need to do. If you were a normal-sized bird, you probably just performed a little below average. Tiny birds, you really underperformed. If you're the ugliest duckling, my goodness, you laid an egg. You like a bird. Just like a bird, you laid an egg. And then, of course, we have the teams that are playing tonight. Let's throw those in there. The Cardinals and the Cowboys, of course, are playing tonight. I believe it's in Glendale. So we'll do it in that order. And then we've got our bye week teams. I didn't have to make fun of Cleveland or New York this week. It's a darn shame. But I'm sure one of those teams found a way to lose their bye week. Eagles were also on bye this week. And Tampa was also at no action from the Bucs. But we do have, what is it? We have 26 other teams to talk about that have already played. And my goodness, what a start. Let's time travel back before we get into everything. Let's time travel back before we get into it. Also, let me take a sip of water. I will say, if you are here enjoying free refill with me, Phil, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share it. Make sure you tell everyone that I'm here doing this right now. But let's talk about this past week. Let's get right into it because I want to get into it, and then I want to watch this Cardinals-Cowboys game because I am playing against 3 Cardinals and Cowboys, and I'm only up by like 60. So we're going to have to see if I'm able to win all 3 games. If I can win all 3 matchups in fantasy, then I got to tell you, it would be an amazing week if I can cap it off with every single league that I'm in and I get a win. But I gotta take it back to the absolutely trash team that is the Miami Dolphins. And I mean, my goodness, what a gross, ugly, disgusting loss. I understand Lamar was back, and Lamar looked like he didn't miss a beat. Let's just talk about that. Baltimore, it wasn't the biggest birds because, again, it's against Miami, and there's a certain expectation, but Baltimore was a pretty big bird. The Ravens a pretty big bird. They went into Miami. They did exactly what they needed to do. Lamar Jackson threw 4 touchdowns. The defense, in a game where Miami kind of played well against Atlanta, the defense of the Baltimore Ravens showed up in spades. Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton felt like they were everywhere when they played Miami. Like, they just could not get anything going. And even then, Miami was able to move the ball in momentary chunks, but when it came down to red zone defense, that's where the Ravens halted them at multiple occasions. I remember going back to that game, there was one play that disgusted me, really bothered me. It was that 4th down fade route to Devon Achane on Kyle Hamilton. And I understand, like, you can make a case Achane's your best offensive player. That's just not a matchup you're going to win. A football is just about matchups. You know, you have to take advantage of the weaker parts of the secondary. That's not one of them. Kyle Hamilton is not the weakest part of the secondary. On 4th down, you do not throw that ball. I don't care if it's I don't really care who's over there. There are very few guys in the league that I would trust in a 50-50 ball fade route against Kyle Hamilton. Unless you're throwing it to Gronk plus Randy Moss plus Jerry Rice, I don't think it makes sense to be throwing it to running back against probably the best safety in the league. I'm sorry. It just doesn't add up. I'm surprised Mike McDaniel has his job. At the same time, I do get it if you're Miami, who, by the way, isn't the ugliest duckling. Certainly very tiny bird energy, but like nobody really expected them to really be able to beat this team. At least I didn't. But here's my issue with the Miami Dolphins and the issue I have with Mike McDaniel. He's not going to stay around here. For whatever reason, sometimes, like, I think they bought the players for Miami. This might be a hot take. I think they buy in to Mike McDaniel in Miami more than they buy into Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. After what I've seen this past weekend, I think it's still a hot take, but I think it's debatable. But Miami, they'll occasionally buy into Mike McDaniel. They'll occasionally play hard for him. But he's not keeping his job. There needs to be a clear culture change, and they made that change. They fired Chris Greer. They're going to probably look for a new GM in the offseason. And what I heard Stephen A. Smith say on ESPN, I mean, listen, I haven't taken most of his stuff seriously in a very long time. But to come out and say, oh, guy, the fact that Chris Greer's fired, I didn't get like the whole quote, but basically the whole gist of it is he's claiming it's a race thing, that Chris Greer is fired because he is black and Mike McDaniel still has his job because he is white. And the answer to that is just, that's ridiculous to me. I mean, say what you want about Mike McDaniel, but before Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer had 2 different head coaches and they made the playoffs once. Chris Greer's been there for 10 years. This team has not won a playoff game. They've been there 3 times, 2 times under McDaniel. They haven't won any of them. And the one playoff game they had with Adam Gase in 2016, they got trounced in Pittsburgh. At least with McDaniel, like Mike McDaniel as a 7 seed went on the road and played with his backup quarterback and kept it close against the Buffalo Bills. Like, there's levels to how good or bad Miami coaches are. Mike McDaniel right now looks like the best out of the 3 that Greer had. Greer was going to get fired. Like, it just is what it is. And Mike McDaniel will probably be gone by season's end because they are trying to create a new culture. But it doesn't make sense to fire him now and bring in a new coach from his own staff, because it's going to come from his staff, right? Whoever would be interim would come from Mike McDaniel's staff. They might win some meaningless games down the stretch, and then they'll think, okay, maybe that guy, maybe that 20-something-year-old is our new head coach. No, that's not what it's going to be. They want to do a clean head coaching search going into the offseason. There's no reason to put in an interim head coach who will just, A, might win meaningless games, and B, is not going to be your head coach long term. Just doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't do it. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. But the Dolphins, I mean, and you also have to consider not having Tyreek Hill doesn't help matters either. One of your other great offensive players, not having him definitely affects things as well. I don't think it would make a huge difference, but it certainly does have an effect on things. And now we just learned Miami traded Jalen Phillips to, of course, the team that makes a trade for everybody, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, why? How does Philly do it every time? I don't know. I don't know how Philadelphia has so much draft capital able to get whoever they want, but they add Jalen Phillips. I think it's a good addition for Philly. To add another pass rusher literally never hurts. I've never seen a situation where adding another pass rusher hurts, especially one like you're just going to keep basically as a rental. Like, they've done this a lot. They've kind of looped around a lot of pass rushers that they've just kind of had for a while and then let go get paid because they don't have an interest in having them paid. It just doesn't really make sense long term. So Philadelphia gets another pass rusher in Jalen Phillips and whatever. But yeah, Miami, not so hot. I'm done with Dolphins, whatever. They're pretty much done. Not really super relevant overall for the rest of the season outside of maybe fantasy for you guys who have Waddle and A-Chain, but probably not making a run. Baltimore, much more relevant. They can continue to crack into the standings of the AFC North. I mean, what? After Cincinnati's lost, they're now second. So they're making progress there. Moving in to the games on Sunday. Let's start at the 1 o'clock. So let's go to an interesting one. I want to talk this one. Minnesota and Detroit. Now, when I did the Sunday show, I looked to kind of rank contenders and pretenders. And I was looking at Minnesota. I kind of felt they were kind of a pretender at that point. We hadn't seen J.J. McCarthy come back, and Carson Wentz got hurt. It just didn't feel like a contending team. And then Detroit, who feels like a contender. They feel like they're still very much could make a playoff run if they get there. That was not a great loss for Detroit, if I'm being honest. Like, if I'm going to start with Detroit, I don't think they were tiny because they very clearly had a shot, but they looked kind of average. Like, Minnesota went into their building, played very well. One of the big pieces for them actually coming back into that game was Andrew Van Ginkel, which is huge because it makes it very difficult because now you have two very good pass rushers on the ends. You can't always chip both of them equally, right? Because if you're chipping both of them, then you're not getting pass catchers out nearly as fast as you'd like to if you're the Lions. And it makes it difficult. That defense definitely looks better when both those guys are out there. And that defense made a statement. They need to finish off the game. But overall, to go into Detroit to get a win the way the Vikings did was very impressive. And to make Detroit look average, I'd have to say I don't think it's biggest bird material, but I gotta admit that's a pretty dang big bird. That's a pretty big bird overall if you're the Minnesota Vikings. The one thing that I saw from what I was able to see was J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy, early on, when the game was said early on, looked incredible. He looked great. Struggled down the stretch. And I think that's where the knock has come on McCarthy so far. And I know he's only played 3 games. And I think you just need to give him time. If you trust Kevin O'Connell's a very good offensive head coach. Justin Jefferson's one of the best receivers in the NFL. The Vikings will figure it out. My question is, we need to see McCarthy kind of complete games because you've seen the flashes, which is very important. It's very important that he's showing those flashes as a guy who was drafted high. That's the first step when you're getting these quarterbacks because you really have to kind of treat McCarthy's this year like he's a rookie. He comes in. He's shown flashes. He's shown flashes in the fourth quarter against the Chicago Bears. He showed some stuff, especially early on in this game against Detroit. Now comes the next steps, completing more of his game, rounding out who he is as a quarterback, how he plays. That's going to be critical down the stretch. I think if there's any coach going to do it, you'd trust a guy like McVay or Reed or Shanahan or in this case Kevin O'Connell. Those are the offensive guys, the offensive gurus that you trust. And Minnesota's right, and just like that, especially with Green Bay's loss, which we'll get to, and Chicago's win, which we'll get to, the NFC North feels like it's everybody's right there. Like, obviously there are some teams you feel a little stronger about still overall, despite some teams winning and losing, but it's right there for the taking for anybody. So that should be a fun division to watch in the second half of the season. I think it'll be the most entertaining division to watch in the second half of the season. And speaking of that NFC North, how about the Chicago Bears? I mean, I want to put them in biggest birds, and the main reason why is just because, and I understand the defense was bad, but you win one of the games of the year. When you win a game like that, you know what, actually? I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause for a second. I don't think, we'll put pretty big. Because, I mean, winning a game of the year like that feels really good. But I do have issues, right? You were up multiple scores. You were giving up an onside kick. It was very back and, really to let Cincinnati get into the game at that point. I thought when Tremaine Edmonds got that pick, it was game over. It probably should have been. Letting Cincinnati get back into the game was not ideal by Chicago, but I will say the offense continues to make strides. And I get it, Cincinnati's defense is terrible, but that's what you're supposed to do to a terrible defense. You're supposed to be able to do whatever you want. Colston Loveland, oh my gosh, what a breakout game for him. I mean, if there was somebody starting Colston Loveland, you probably made your opponent very annoyed in fantasy. But that was a huge game for the Chicago Bears to win. That was a huge game because if they lost that game, I feel like they kind of waver out down the stretch. They don't have the season that they maybe want to have. But with that win, oh my gosh, that's got to feel electric. That's got to feel good for Chicago Bears fans that to just very rarely ever see high-scoring games. That one's got to feel good. And Rome Odunze didn't even get a catch. Can you think about that? You put up 47 points and one of your top 2 receivers didn't even get a single catch in this game. The Ben Johnson offense, it's made Chicago much better. It just has. It's made them a better team overall. They're nothing like last year. I won't say they're a contender necessarily, but they are much better than they were last year, and that's thanks to Ben Johnson. And here we are. Now, this one's interesting because I kind of do think that for all intensive purposes, Cincinnati really should be the ugliest duckling. Like, I really think they should be the team that performed the worst. But the offense played incredible. Like, it's really hard for me to say that they were the worst team when I do think there were some other... We'll say the ugliest ducklings. Because if we're gonna have some biggest birds, we gotta have some really awful performances. We'll put Cincinnati in here because I will say that's not okay. For their first of all, let's talk. Cincinnati shouldn't have probably been in this game, being down 2 scores, having to get a touchdown, then an onside kick. But getting that onside kick was like, whoa, okay. Cincinnati gets the ball, and I thought, you know what's crazy? It's definitely isn't over, and it was right. And this is the issue with Cincinnati. If you want to win the game, and as the Bengals right now, you need to score with zeros on the clock. You legitimately cannot give the ball back to the other team. Just can't. And, because, I mean, I think they had 1 timeout if you were Chicago. I think it was just under 30 seconds. No, I think it was more time than that. It was like less than a minute, but, I mean, to give up a touchdown? I can maybe understand getting him into field goal range. Colston Loveland just outran everybody. And the other thing is, the lack of accountability in Cincinnati's locker room. I mean, it's why they have the box of shame. It's unreal. There were interviews with players that were just... I mean, I had never seen it. They were laughing off the bad defensive performance. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be irate, furious. You should be pissed that your defense is playing the way it is. Your fans are pissed. Everybody who's watching you can't believe it. It's awful. It's awful defensive football. And yet you're laughing it off. So what does that mean? Do you not care? Do you not trust the coaching staff? Like, they had a players-only meeting after the loss to the Jets. And it did nothing. They looked arguably worse. So, and now you're 3-6, right? Like, you can't keep asking Joe Flacco to do this. Joe Flacco is in his 40s. You can't keep asking this of your offense. You just can't. As good as their offense is, you can't keep asking this. Could you imagine if they even had the 19th best defense? 19th best defense right now. That's not even top half of the league defense. This team would... Like, really? They can't even ask for that. It's abysmal. It is so abysmal. It is some of the worst defensive play I've maybe ever seen, and I've seen some bad defenses. Remember when the Steelers defense was bad, when their offense was great. This is just not okay. This is not okay. You got to be in there. I'm gonna have a couple other teams in there, but this was not okay. Not good. Not good from Cincinnati. The big win for Chicago. I think it was a big win for Chicago to be able to get that one, because especially with the painful losses that they had last year, they've gotten 2 wins where it's like, okay, this Chicago team is entertaining. This is the first Chicago team I've actually found entertaining in a long time, maybe in my entire life. This one's good. This one's good. Ooh, let me get to one of our biggest birds. I'm gonna have complete bias here, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, come on, they only won by 7." No, you have to understand, Pittsburgh this week was 100% one of the biggest birds of the week, because number one, their defense had played so poorly the last 2 weeks, and I had seen it. It was disgusting. They now bring in the most efficient offense this century. Through 8 games played, the Colts had the most efficient offense this century. And they forced 6 turnovers. Jonathan Taylor averaged 3.2 yards a pop. Daniel Jones needed at least 100 yards of his passing in just the fourth quarter when they were down multiple scores, right? That defense made insane plays. Like, they were attacking the Colts offensive tackles. I don't know what they weren't doing, not chipping, like TJ Watt on that forced fumble that he had. Oh my gosh. they were having funerals. The fans were having a funeral for the Steelers defense, and they showed up. They like arose, like in WWE, he's in the coffin, and then just went. They were ready. They were ready to go. An amazing performance, just through and through. I can't say much more other than that. Like, it was for them to do what they did. For them to do what they did, you know what that gets? Oh, hold on. I need to turn on desktop audio. That's what that gets. I don't even hear it, but now I'm going to hear it now. I'm not gonna hear it. Oh, because my headphones aren't on. That's why I can't hear anything on my monitor. Duh. There we go. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff from the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The offense just basically took advantage of the turnovers, which is something that they fail to do usually. Like, they cashed in a lot of their touchdowns when they did. There was moments early where they didn't, but they were able to get it done. Got to give credit to Pittsburgh and that defense for finally showing up. Now, is that going to be the answer long term? I don't know. We'll have to see, because they play the Chargers next week on Sunday night. And I think something very critical about that game in particular is that depending on what the status is, like Joe Alt, for example, is he going to be ready to go? The Chargers' offensive line is a vulnerable one. Are you going to be able to get pressure quickly enough? Especially because Herbert, surprisingly, an uptick in interceptions. I think he's thrown 8 on the year. It'd be the most since, I want to say 2022 was when he had 10. So there's an uptick on interceptions for Justin Herbert. Will the Steelers be able to take advantage and maybe get another big win? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how the Steelers travel, too, to LA. We'll see what they're able to do in that regard. Regardless, the Steelers get a huge win. The Indianapolis Colts now is something that needs to be discussed. Now, you could argue for Ugliest Duckling, but they fought. They were able to get it within a touchdown at the end. They never really had a chance, right? Because they were down 10 with 13 seconds. They were just getting the field goal, then maybe have a chance on the onside kick and a Hail Mary. But, so I'm not gonna say it was the ugliest performance, but they definitely felt tiny. This was probably their worst performance of the season. They turned it over a bunch. They turned over in droves, and it was not gonna win games like that against anybody. Not even a Steelers offense that wasn't necessarily high in yardage, was just capitalizing off those turnovers. Not a good game for Indy. And I think the important thing is, obviously, there's the jokes. Daniel Jones gets reset. He's back to his Giants days, which I have indulged in. But in all reality, the proof that Daniel Jones has grown and evolved from his New York days is not, or rather that he isn't going to come from this game. It comes from the next game, right? So, people say this, you're not defined by one game. But you will be defined by patterns. And if Daniel Jones, they play against Atlanta and Berlin, that'll be a big testament. Can they bounce back against a defense that is a little better than I think people really know and anticipate? Can the Colts bounce back against Atlanta? Can Daniel Jones return back to just, at the very least, making sure the turnovers are removed from his game? That's what's going to have to happen in Berlin if we're going to see Daniel Jones return from his regress, right? Like, not look the way he did. Doesn't make it look like he hadn't regressed, right? That's the goal for the Colts against the Falcons next week. That's going to be the critical one. And I think it's going to involve Jonathan Taylor. It's going to involve that offensive line playing better. If they're able to do that, they should be fine. But if not, then you run into the issue. How's Daniel Jones going to look if he struggles again? If he struggles again, then all of a sudden you have to have a real conversation. And if it happens a third time, that's when, well, actually, no. I guess the second time is not really a conversation. If it happens a second time, then you have to, at least we start talking about it, the fans, the media, whoever. And then a third time, then all of a sudden, how do we get back on track? Because being 7-1, all of a sudden 7-4, when you were 7-1, doesn't feel nearly as good. So we will see how the Colts look moving forward. My guess is they will be okay. They'll be fine. They may not be as explosive. They may not be like dominating with Jonathan Taylor, massive. That's the point. You got to get Jonathan Taylor back involved. That will be the start. We'll see what Indy looks like. I think they'll still be very good. I just don't know if they'll have that same explosive kind of run they had at the beginning of the year. Other 1 o'clock game, San Francisco, New York. Decent win for San Francisco. I think it's a little suspicious. Jackson Dart's good. I understand that. I think even New York, I'll give them like normal. They played fine, right? I understand that there's injuries. I understand that there's been problems for the New York Giants with Malik Neighbors and Cam Scadaboo. Jackson Dart looks good. The 49ers just, Christian McCaffrey was not going to have bad back-to-back weeks, and he's their offense. Christian McCaffrey is basically what makes this offense go, right? And if this offense is going, then usually they're fine, even if their defense has had some significant injuries. I do think at a certain point, though, this San Francisco team is still not, at least in my opinion, I don't think good enough. They might be able to make the playoffs, they might be able to sneak in, but I think expecting a run at the end of the year, I think is just too much to bear. It's just, you have too many injuries at a certain point. That would be my argument. That would be my argument for San Francisco. I think they're very good. It was a good win to get bounced back after a tough loss to the Texans. But again, you are playing a 2-6 Giants team that has significant injuries. They'll win. They'll win their games. They'll beat the teams they should, but against teams that are just more talented and better and just as equally as well coached, it's not going to be as easy. I think Kyle Shanahan will need to stay creative, but I just, a win's a win. I just worry that when you play those teams that are going to be, because remember, New York's arguably just as banged up as San Francisco is. When you play healthier teams, what's that matchup going to look like? That's just the concern for San Francisco, but they did get the win, so decent-sized bird. And New York just looked normal. Like they honestly, you could argue they looked better than what they should, given the circumstances. That would be the main thing, but we'll see where that goes. A lot of people also said Brian Burns is a trade candidate. Probably not, right? I had seen that maybe he's in trade conversations. I think you'd have to give up quite a bit to get him. Because I think, I don't think there's any reason for the Giants to give him up personally. I think he's just, you'd have to get a pretty good offer from a team that's trying to compete for a championship. And then for tomorrow, whether it's myself or Taff and I, we'll be discussing, trade deadlines that end up happening. Because it should be tomorrow at 4:30. That should be the end of the deadline. In terms of guys that I think should be moved, Trey. I wouldn't doubt if the Bengals trade both Trey Hendrickson and Logan Wilson. I'm surprised Jacoby Myers isn't on the move yet. That's a guy that I think probably gets moved. I wouldn't doubt it if New England makes a call. New England goes out and adds Jacoby Myers to what's already a surprisingly better than I thought wide receiver core, but with Booty out, they're going to need somebody. I think New England will trade for a wide receiver. Just small thoughts on the deadline overall, but moving on. Another 1 o'clock game. Denver, Houston. Decent. I mean, I'd like to see Denver kind of take these kind of games, kind of whoop Houston. Because, Denver's 7-2. But how good is Denver? Is Denver really like that? I don't know. They whooped Dallas at home, right? But, the Giants went in and completely dominated them in the first half. I don't know how complete of a team Denver is. They're very solid, and since starting 1-2, they've just been winning games. You'd like to see a little bit more of an impressive feat. It was a good defense that they were playing in the Houston Texans, so I will give them that. I'd like to see that game kind of be dominated by Denver. If you want me to put them in consensus, they're a top 3, top 4 team. They're probably more 5-6 right now. Maybe you could argue top 5 for sure, but I'd like to see them dominate Houston. And unfortunately for the Texans, speaking of which, losing C.J. Stroud to what is probably a concussion. It's not a guarantee. We'll see if he will. Probably we're looking at a concussion for Houston and C.J. Stroud. You got to feel tiny after that one. The reason why, I understand Denver's good, but the reason why is because you were at home and you kind of felt like you could have won that game, right? Does anyone not, it felt very, did they, I looked at that, I gotta go back. Did they score a touchdown? I kind of don't remember them scoring a touchdown. Like 5 field goals felt like, because they had 15 points. I never remember at any point them scoring a TD. So in my head, because I was watching mostly Red Zone, and I was wondering, have the Texans gotten into the end zone? I don't think they did. They didn't. No, they just kicked 5 field goals. So their inability to capitalize when they got into the opponent's half the field. I understand Denver's got a good defense, but you're at home. You gotta be capitalizing on those. And losing CJ Stroud certainly doesn't help. But this offense wasn't functioning well when he was there, so it just feels like Houston's very reliant on their defense, and their offense just can't get up to speed. It just doesn't feel like it's able to generate enough offense. So sorry, Houston. It's tough, but and especially again because you had it. Like, this would have been a huge win for them to gain ground, not just beat Denver at home, but also catch up to Indy, who had also lost. So just not good. Not good for the Houston Texans. Oh, you know what? You know who was a surprising winner that felt like a tiny bird? The Chargers. This was probably the least impressive win maybe all year by any team. Titans are terrible. They got a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown. Hello? Like, this team sucks. What are we, like, how was Tennessee able to compete? Especially, they had no offense. Their offense was non-existent this whole game, and yet somehow they only lost by 7 points, and LA put up 27. Like, I understand they're banged up and they're missing pieces, but dude, this is the worst team in the league. And you're only winning by 7 points? Like, come on? Hello? Excuse me? And and it shows they don't really have, their running backs haven't been healthy, right? Like, almost all their running backs have been hurt. Dude, you gotta, not great. You can't really feel good about that. And honestly, that game, despite them winning, makes me feel worse. It makes me feel worse about the Chargers. Like, can you really trust them, especially in a division where I think Kansas City, despite losing to Buffalo, is overall better? And maybe tiny is an over-exaggeration because they did win. I'll put them in normal, but that doesn't feel... I cannot feel good. If you're the Chargers, that win does not feel good. That sits in your stomach and you feel a little gross. Not an impressive victory. And as for Tennessee, I mean, dude... Honestly, no, their offense is that bad. I'm sorry. I tried to do it, but their offense, like, if they'd gotten anything from their offense, they probably could have won that game. They just didn't. It's it's such a bad offense, and I can't. I feel bad for Titans fans. Like, I would have thought at least having the number 1 overall pick, there'd be some excitement there. It doesn't feel like there is, and to be honest, I want to speak on it more. I just didn't watch. They didn't show enough of the offense on Red Zone for me to remotely know what's wrong with it. Well, I know what's wrong with it. They just don't have enough talent. Like, Calvin Ridley can't be your wide receiver 1 at this point in his career. Tony Pollard just doesn't fit in Tennessee. They let their talent go. Like, that's the reality. A.J. Brown's an Eagle, and Derrick Henry's a Raven. You let some of your best players go. Who cares if Derrick Henry was older? Why would you trade A.J. Brown? Right? Like, it doesn't make sense. It feels off to me. Like, those are players you could have built your next, like, regime around, and instead you got, to be honest, the only cornerstones would be like Cam Ward, who you want to build around as your quarterback, and like Jeffrey Simmons, and that's it. You can even argue you might want to trade Simmons. I think every option that is available outside of moving off Cam Ward right now should be on the books for the Titans. Like, I would consider a bunch of different head coaching candidates. I'd consider a bunch of different free agent options. I'd consider a bunch of guys in the draft. Like, pretty much everything is on the board for the Tennessee Titans to do something. We'll see what they end up doing, but they're just, yeesh, not good. Especially because all the other parts of your team gave you shots to win. the thought that the part of the Titans that we thought might be fun is watching Cam Ward, and it's just no help is being given whatsoever. It just ain't okay. It ain't okay. Ladies and gentlemen, moving off from Titans Chargers, we have our second ugliest duckling. Hello, Green Bay. Welcome to being the ugliest duckling and losing at home to the Carolina Panthers. Now listen, Carolina has been somewhat shocking in the fact that they are 5-4. What doesn't shock me is that I don't think Carolina's a good team despite having a winning record. I don't. Bryce Young was not particularly impressive last week. What was impressive was Rico Dowdle and I guess the Panthers' red zone defense, but at the same time, is that also the Packers not scoring offensively? And I gotta tell you, not just losing to Carolina, but now you lose your best offensive piece in Tucker Kraft to an ACL injury. So we hope, and that was a huge piece. That guy, he had a huge breakout game against Pittsburgh. That's probably the biggest piece in their offense. And again, these are receivers that, while okay and good wide receiver twos, don't really exude confidence as wide receiver ones. And again, I just don't think Carolina's that good. Like, Carolina's 5-4, but I don't think they're a good team, right? It feels off. It feels off-putting. I'm convinced they're not. I know they're 5-4, but they don't look particularly impressive. I'm sorry. I'm not buying into it. And the reality is, Green Bay played like poopy buns. Green Bay had opportunities. Like, there was that throw to Xavier McKinney. Like, Bryce Young, that should have been picked, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's some throws that Bryce shouldn't have thrown. I still am in shock that Carolina won this game. I mean, I find it kind of funny that they did. If you're Green Bay at home, that's not an okay performance to have. And this is an issue. This has been an issue. This has been an issue kind of all year a little bit. Like, I understand struggling against Cleveland on the road. I don't understand struggling against the Carolina Panthers defense at home. That's my issue. And you got to be one of the ugliest ducklings of the week because you looked like it. Now, Carolina, gosh. And honestly, like, you know who, like, if I could put Carolina in, like, they were, like, decent. Then I can put Rico Dowdle in the biggest birds. I would put Rico Dowdle solely there because he is very clearly now the number one running back in Carolina, and it ain't close. I don't know. There was reports, Hubbard's still the number one back. Oh, no, Rico Dowdle's number one back. Like, I was getting a bunch of stuff left and right. It's clear who's number one running back, RB1 in Carolina. It's Rico. It is not Chuba Hubbard. Now, I like Chuba, but number one running back right now is Rico Dowdle. It's nowhere close. And the fact that Carolina is 5-4 somehow is unbelievable. And again, let me emphasize this. None of this, I'm going to say this, I'm going to put this in quotes, none of it matters because Carolina's season is very simple. It's going to get decided in the last 3 weeks when they play Tampa twice and Seattle once. That's when Carolina's season will be decided. All this other stuff, unless Carolina wins out until then. But I kind of don't think that's going to happen. But again, this was a Carolina Panthers team. They got blown out by Buffalo at home and then went on the road and beat Green Bay. Like, nothing this season makes sense. Nothing. Nothing at all. And yet, here we are. Big win, though. Big win for Carolina. I just don't buy in. And Green Bay, their Super Bowl hopes take a huge hit not having Tucker Kraft. I think it is a huge hit for them to take. Not ideal. One more 1 o'clock game is on here. It's New England and Atlanta. Now, New England, decent win. Now, again, I think Atlanta's like okay-ish. But again, I don't think Atlanta's dominant, and I feel like if you're New England, you kind of want to win that game by a little more, like only winning by one in that close. Because again, Parker Romo missed the extra point. This game could have been very different if it was tied instead of that extra point being missed, right? And there was also, side note, other weird thing happened in this game. There was, I think something mentioned Clapgate by Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel made a joke about it. I don't know what they're talking about. I do, but I don't really know what they're pointing to. So, basically, the defense is lined up, and what they're referring to in the game is that apparently one of the Patriots players, who is not on screen, by the way, if he is even doing this, but you can hear like kind of a clapping, and it's supposed to like throw. It's like you're not allowed to do that because you're throwing the offense off like their snap count or whatever as a defense. And when Michael Penix throws it to like Bijan, he immediately points him out. I don't know if they pointed it out during the game, during the live broadcast. I didn't see that. I'd have to go back and see if they did. Maybe they showed it in the highlight tape. But I have to be honest, who cares, you know? Like, I mean, and then, you know, you got Patriots fans being like, dude, that's when you know we're back. We're getting called out for cheating, right? Like, but New England gets a win. I still, again, despite them being 7-2, I have concerns. Booty being out, I think New England needs to trade for a wide receiver, like I had mentioned earlier. I also, from what I see from the New England Patriots, it's like you're not playing dominant teams, right? Like I'm not incredibly impressed if you beat Cleveland or if you beat Tennessee or even like an Atlanta team, right? We'll see what the rematch against Buffalo looks like. That's probably a huge game and will probably end up being for the division. I think that game just matters the most, and I think if you're New England, if you're New England or Buffalo, you're probably thinking about that in the back of your head a little bit, that how important that game's going to be. I think that'll be the decider for the AFC East, really. But I am shocked. I will say I am shocked. I didn't think New England would win all those games. I thought there was at least one that they might trip and stumble a little bit. Not quite the case. Atlanta, they came close, but even if Romo makes that extra point, I could still see like New England winning. Regardless, decent win for New England. And as for Atlanta, I mean, buddy, to be honest though, it's not like the worst loss I've seen. Like, New England was playing well. To do that on the road isn't easy. And Drake London, not only a hat trick, but also every snag I saw him catch, I'm like, that's a top 5 receiver right there. That's a top 5 receiver right there if you're Drake London. That dude is a monster. Like, this was the best. I think this is obviously like a career game for him, but my gosh, that dude does not get nearly enough credit. So, that's all I got to say on Atlanta. Let's get to these late games, and then I'll cover Sunday Night Football, and then I will be out of here to go watch Cardinals and Seahawks, and also eat dinner, because I'm hungry. Rams Saints. Sorry, buddy, you're a tiny bird. It's not Ugliest Duckling, because I'm going to be honest, number one, it was a rookie quarterback. Number two, the Saints are just bad. Saints don't have a good roster. And number three, we're playing the LA Rams. Like, I give a little bit of leeway to the Saints who just suck. Like, I know they suck, but I mean, like, you didn't think they'd win with Tyler. I didn't even know it was Shuck. Is that how it's pronounced? I thought it was Shao. I thought the whole time it was Tyler Shao. People are now telling me it's Tyler Shuck. I did not know that. I did not know that. So, if it's Shuck or Shao, whatever, I didn't know. But now I do. It's Tyler Shuck. They were not going to win that game. It just wasn't going to happen. Matthew Stafford lit up what was a bad Saints team. And for the LA Rams, I'd normally be like, oh, that's a biggest bird moment. No, it's pretty big. You play a bad Saints team, I can only put you up so high. But for the LA Rams, Puka Nacua unfortunately hurt again, but my gosh, every time he plays, it's amazing. He plays with all of his body. Him combined with Devontae Adams, those are two really good wide receivers right there. If you're the LA Rams, you're just going to keep on chucking. It's going to be between them. I mean, the NFC West. I know I mentioned the North earlier in terms of how tight that division got. But with the West, the Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and then, of course, you have the Cardinals who, you know, are trash. But, I mean, come on. That's three really good teams I think could very well compete to the end of the rest of the season. Like, the only division that doesn't feel remotely competitive at all right now is the NFC East. Like, at the very least, the NFC South has, like, the Carolina Panthers, who might be able to do something, right? But the NFC East is just the Eagles, which is insane because it's the first time, it's likely to be the first time the NFC East has back-to-back repeat champs since, like 2003. Like, what was it, 03, 04, when it was Andy Reid? That's what it feels like. But yeah, Rams are pretty big birds. Jacksonville. Yeah, what a weird. I'm going to say decent sized birds for Jacksonville. That's what I'll say. Because you beat the Raiders, you won. you were able to make some plays. But overall, I mean, it's the Raiders. I guess it's on the road. I guess Jacksonville might be closer to the Raiders level than I anticipated. I don't think... I still have my pick. My pick is still possible that Jacksonville could win their division, but it doesn't look that way. But with the Colts losing, the Jaguars winning, that was big ground for them to make up in that moment. I still don't know, man. Every week I think, oh yeah, Jacksonville's offense is going to figure it out. Why do I keep saying that? That is never going to happen. I have seen, like, Trevor Lawrence should be better than what he is. I'm just going to say it. Like, I think Trevor, this may sound untrue and crazy, but Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to look this up, but I think Trevor Lawrence might have more rushing TDs on the season than passing TDs. Is that true? Because I feel like, I remember he had like 3 against Kansas City. He had 1 in this game. He's got 9 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. What are his rushing totals? Because I think he has, he only has 4. Wow, okay, so I just happen to have seen all 4. It's just, I don't know. It's bizarre to me. It's very bizarre because that's not a good quarterback. And I would have thought Liam Cohen worked with Baker. He'll make Trevor good. Somehow, no. He made no, but I guess number 1 overall picks are just, there's levels. And Trevor Lawrence is clearly a lower level than Baker. But I keep thinking that something's got to click at some point, and it still hasn't happened. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It boggles my mind. The Raiders, they were normal. They weren't awful. You know what? I'll put them in normal solely for the fact that they remembered Brock Bowers exists. Like, Brock Bowers came back, and I was worried that they would forget he'd exist again. They made sure that everybody remembered. I mean, in my league, maybe our points are slightly inflated, but 46 points in my league at least. Oh my goodness gracious, thank you, Brock, for just giving me a little joy. And, you know, maybe my heartstrings, maybe I'm getting a little juked out. Maybe my fantasy team won't surge all the way back. But this gives me hope. It makes me excited. J.J. McCarthy coming back. Maybe Justin Jefferson balls out. Maybe Josh Allen keeps doing his thing, right? Maybe our team can make a run if Brock Bowers can be the linchpin that gets it together. But my goodness, I mean, just what a crazy game it was too. Like, Geno Smith actually playing well. And all it took was somehow Jacksonville, even though Jacksonville's defense has been like low key, forcing turnovers and been surprisingly better. Regardless, this was it is what it is. Raiders lost though. It's a tough loss to happen, but they look like a normal team. And we get to the 2 biggest birds that we saw. Number 1 biggest bird has to be the Buffalo Bills. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They made it look like they figured out Kansas City in the regular season. Josh Allen is now, I believe, 5-1 against Mahomes in the regular season. They legitimately just need to do it in the playoffs, and they'll be like, they can actually have a real shot at Super Bowl, but they haven't done it yet. Could this be the year? I sure hope so, because I don't want to watch Mahomes represent the AFC yet another time. I really want another team. I just do. I can't keep watching the Chiefs constantly represent the AFC. We have 15 other teams. Let it be one of the 14. I kind of don't want to see New England either. I'll be real with you, but like, I like Drake May's entertaining, but only to an extent. Like, it's fun in the regular season, but when we come playoffs, I need the Patriots to lose. Like, that's sorry, it's just what it is. You guys rebuilt way too fast. Stop it, Boston. You've won enough. But the Buffalo Bills, they did what they needed to do against Kansas City. They figured it out. As for the Chiefs, I'd say like, oh, they're kind of normal, but honestly, and they weren't the ugliest, because I have someone else in mind for what was more of an ugly performance. But if you're Kansas City, Mahomes, like, you know how Daniel Jones had a bad game against Pittsburgh? Mahomes' pass rating was lower than Daniel Jones's. I mean, he only completed like 15 passes. Mahomes struggled mightily in this game. And, I mean, listen, Chiefs will bounce back. It's what they do. But my goodness, it was just baffling to see them struggle as much as they did in that game. And I gotta tell you, like they'll be fine. The issue I have is, why? Right? Like, by the way, I don't know if many of you know this, Mahomes was like probably top 3 or top 2 or 1 fantasy quarterback in most leagues, and he was a huge part of the offense. I mean, for him to just struggle the way he did was just shocking. I didn't expect him to play so poorly, and yet he did. And now you have the Chiefs at 5-4, and again, they'll be fine. They may not win the division if they keep doing this. But the thing is, they'll have 2 matchups against Denver. They'll play the Chargers again. The Chiefs will have their shot. Just to see them go into Buffalo and not play that well was just very shocking, to me at least. They're not the ugliest ducklings because someone else gets that title. Washington. And for every reason. Starting with number 1, this team was, 28-zip before even the first half. Not unacceptable. Cincinnati's was bad, I know, and Sam Darnold, to Sam Darnold's credit, he is the other reason that we have the biggest bird. He was actually literally the biggest bird because Seahawk. But that was just not okay. That was on every level not okay for Washington to do that. Number 1, their defense was terrible. Number 2, you have now lost your quarterback to a dislocated elbow for no reason. He shouldn't have been in the game at that point. The fact that he was an absolute disgrace and a completely unnecessary. And he was still in the game, and now Jaden Daniels is out. You're 3-6. Washington, pack it up. You're not just even pretenders. You're done. I do not Washington has no chance. It's done. Especially if they're going to... I would have thought... last year I was like, okay, wow, Washington is starting to look like a legitimate organization. No. They can't be taken seriously. Their defense looked awful, and they had Jaden Daniels in late in the game when the game was over, and he got hurt. It's just unacceptable. It's some of the worst thing I can ever see. As for Sam Darnold, 17 straight completions, 4 touchdowns. The man is... Let's stop with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. He just is. He's playing like it. He's playing like it. He's playing confident. He's playing loose. He's playing strong. He's playing for a franchise that believes in him. That's really all it takes. Play for a franchise that believes in you. I could be an NFL quarterback as long as there's a franchise that believes in me. That's probably not true. I need to really get into shape. But you just never know. Sam Darnold's resurrected his career arc. Seattle looks amazing. I can't wait to see them match up against the Rams. It is going to be an amazing game. As for Washington, listen, I can't believe you had Jaden Daniels in late in that game, and they're probably done. At this point, I would even say, as to argue, the NFC East is locked up. It's the Eagles. Eagles would have to have a crazy collapse at the second half of the season for them not to win the division. And it looks like they're not going to... I don't think that'll happen. It could. I'm going to say no, I don't think it happens. But... And then, of course, Dallas and Arizona will play each other in 15 minutes. That'll be a good one. Should be fun. I would hope. I would hope it is. I really do. Just because I think it's 2 offenses. It's Dallas's bad defense. Arizona's existing offense. We'll see where it goes, but... if I had to pick a game winner tonight, probably Dallas. If they found a way to lose to Arizona, it'd be very Cowboys of them. And if they do lose to Arizona, then definitely Philadelphia's got the NFC East on lock. Anyways, that has been all for this episode of Free Refill. It's actually just about to be at an hour and 55 seconds. Well, it's going to be at an hour in 50 seconds. So I want to say thank you if you've been watching or if you're tuning in, if you've watched, if you're here. Of course, you know the drill. You know how YouTube works. You know all the buttons you need to press to help out. The likes, the shares, the subscribes, the bell. I don't know, probably the comment. The comment section. Oh my God. Using that as well. But I appreciate it. And every single person that watches, I really do appreciate it. It's always fun. It's always fun doing this. I enjoy it. It gives me something to rant about after a long day of work. And it's what I want to do in the future. like for my career. It'd be really fun. But that's all I have. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. Y'all eat some dinner. Y'all watch the Cowboys Cardinals. Hopefully your fantasy matchups go in the way they want. Hopefully, maybe if you got a bet tonight on the game, I hope you win money. And I'm gonna go blow my nose because I'm still getting over a cold and also eat dinner. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow with Taff on Prime Time with Taff and Phil. See ya.